90 to 92. The Gerry Ryan Show, Monday to Friday, 9 till 12 on 2FM.
Nico, good morning to you.
How's it going, Gerry?
Very good. Now, what are we going to call Mr. Trapattoni? We got to get this right. Is it going to be Giovanni or Giovanni?
I think it's going to have to be Giovanni.
Well, I'm kind of going down that route as well. Now, Nico, are you Italian?
Well, Italian extract. My dad's Italian and all his family.
Okay, that's good enough for me. And has this been an issue? I mean, did you guys get into this discussion yet yourselves?
No, it's just that, you see, 95% of Italian names have the letter I in them.
Yep.
Between first names and second names. I mean, my whole name has three I's in it, and every I is pronounced as an E. So it's one of the most prominent letters in the Italian language. So
there you go, Nico. Really
yeah,
of course.
Yeah. It can't really be bypassed. You see, because it stands out the most when you're pronouncing something. I mean, even Giovanni himself has the I at the end. I mean, when you say his full name, it's the I at the end that you hear. You know,
that's right, Giovanni.
And Trapattoni. It's the last thing you hear. You know, it's the most prominent that stands out in his name. You know, even your researcher. I said to your researcher to ask her to spell my second name. Because 95% of the people that I've ever spoken to, or even on addresses and do it, they spell my name with D-E. You know, they spell it the way they hear it.
Whereas in fact E is pronounced A, isn't it?
I.
I, is it?
Yeah. Because my surname is D-I, you see.
Oh, right.
And everyone spells it D-E because they say it the way they spell it the way they hear it.
Well, what about Aprile? A-P-R-I-L-E. That's Aprile.
A-P-R. Well, it's. I mean, obviously not every single word, but you know, most. I mean, 95% of it is pronounced as I.
Okay.
Or E.
Just on an emotional level, are you very proud of the fact that it's an Italian, not just an Italian, but maybe one of the most successful Italian football managers ever, who's been appointed to stewardship of the Irish team?
Well, I mean, between Ireland and England now, I think both of them have got two of the most successful managers going. So,
all right, well, it'll be very
interesting.
It'll
be a bit of a clash, I think, when they need Italy next year. It'll be nice to see what's going to happen then.
Well, I think that actually added to Trapattoni's interest, was the idea that he might end up coming up against.
I don't think Italy will be too happy if they get beaten.
No, they won't. I hope his safety will be guaranteed. I hope we can manage that for him. All right, thank you very much indeed, Nico.
Cheers,
Good morning. He says Giovanni. He says you can't get away from it. It's not Giovanni, it's Giovanni. Maria, good morning to you.
Hello.
Buongiorno, Maria.
Buongiorno, Gerry.
I'm very well. Bene. What about that? Now, Mr. Trapattoni, the first thing that we've decided that we must do with this man is we must learn how to say his name correctly.
Yes.
Now, I heard a debate yesterday about his first name. Some pundits saying that it should be Giovanni, others saying it should be Giovanni.
Yes.
Now, you are, I gather, of Italian extract.
I am.
So you should know.
Yeah, well, the name is spelled Giovanni.
Correct.
So it would be pronounced as Giovanni.
Giovanni.
Yes.
And give me the passionate Italian way of saying it.
Okay, it would be Giovanni.
Giovanni.
Sì,
Giovanni Trapattoni. Trapattoni.
Sì.
Meatball, lasagna, spaghetti, tra-la-la-la-la. How about that?
Very good, yes. I don't think you'll need all that.
No, okay, I won't need all that. Though he does seem to be a very passionate man himself. He's a wonderful speaker.
Well, as far as I know, I wouldn't be well up now. And my husband now would be more now into the...
I think you could get some of his speeches on YouTube, and boys, oh boys, does he give it sock. Okay, I'm taking that as an absolute definite from you.
Yes.
Well done, Maria. Thank you.
If my father was still alive today, now he would be absolutely over the moon.
I was going to ask you that. Is it on your husband's side or your father's side?
Of the Italian origin?
Yeah.
Well, I would be more Italian, but he also is from Italian extraction.
Okay, so you're both Italian, effectively.
My parents have been here since the first immigrants came to Ireland.
So I presume if your father, Lord rest his soul, was alive today, he'd be delighted.
He would be over the moon. And my mother, I'm sure, she still follows the Italian football and tries to watch the Italian matches and the rugby and everything, you know. And, I think that she too is over the moon. She's 86, God love her, and she's she's wonderful, really. She still watches the matches, and she's quite passionate about football and that, like all the Italians.
Well, you Italians are passionate about everything. That's why we like you.
Yes, it's true. Food and football, that's their main thing in life,
All right, Maria, grazie.
Prego.
Good morning.
You.
Roberto, good morning.
Good morning, Gerry.
Now, what do you think? Giovanni or Giovanni?
Well, Maria's kind of right there. It's written Gio, but you kind of glide over it and go straight to Gio. So it's Giovanni.
Oh, so you think it's Giovanni? She went for Giovanni.
No, I think she kind of. But when she said it, she kind of glided over it and said it, which I'd say correctly, which is Giovanni.
So you're going for Giovanni, of two diametrically opposed pronunciations.
Yeah. Sorry, I maybe I misheard her then.
So it's not. We were going to Giovanni. It's not that.
Giovanni.
So you think it's Giovanni?
Yeah, you just exaggerate the double N's a bit and make it more authentic, but basically glide over the.
There's a terrible text after coming in here. Look, listen to this, Roberto. Gerry, when we lose our first match, we'll call him Giovanni Trapattoni. That's terrible. They're already at it. That's from Gary Carruthers. Good man, Gary. All right, thank you very much for that, Roberto. How Italian are you, by the way? How much can I trust you?
My mother and father. I was born here, but my mother and father are both Italian.
So you'd still be entitled to wear the blue jersey, though, wouldn't you?
Yes. Well, when it goes around one way, you can always stick the other one on.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, you're playing. Your rugby is too slow now, mind you, at the moment. But
yes, yeah. But sure, not to worry.
All right. God bless you. Take care.
Thanks a million. Bye. Grazie, prego.
Now, there you go. He says Giovanni. Maria says Giovanni. And there is a difference. Got to sort this out today. We have to sort this out today. I'm passionate about it. Now, let me quote from the Star newspaper today under the headline, I'll Restore Pride. New Ireland soccer boss Giovanni Trapattoni last night promised to give the Green Army back their pride. In his first newspaper interview since he accepted a €2 million or euro a year job, the Italian legend told the Star, I believe we can qualify for the World Cup. He was speaking exclusively to Michael O'Toole in Salzburg. Michael, good morning and welcome.
Hello, Gerry.
This is an unusual one for you to be doing, isn't it? Going after World Cup managers. But good, nonetheless. Now, first of all, let's have a look at some of the things that some of the detractors are saying. Oh, this fella's an old codger. He's got on a Zimmer frame. Sure, he's probably deaf in one ear and he probably can't remember who he is half the time. He doesn't look like that to me.
I spent about 7 minutes interviewing him yesterday, and I was completely... Well, I'll put it this way, all journalistic objectivity went out the window after I was speaking to him. I was over here, as a reporter, but I've never done anything soccer-wise at all. Obviously, I'm a crime reporter, but
yeah.
I was sent because I could speak Italian to the man. But after speaking to him, I was awestruck. I just thought this man's going to be absolutely fantastic for Ireland. He is so clear, he is so determined, he has a steely gaze when you're talking to him. I just think he's going to be absolutely brilliant. And I was with my colleague Jim Walpole, the photographer, and a colleague of his, Dave Maher from Sportsfile. Now, those guys go round the world with the Irish soccer team, and they're experienced sports photographers. But even those fellas looking at Trapattoni when he was giving it the training session with FC Salzburg, they were looking at each other going, what the hell is this all about? Because he was the last person off the training pitch. I remember one thing particularly I was struck by this. He was teaching what looked like a very experienced professional how to take free kicks. So when he was getting to curl the ball around the wall that those guys set up with dummies and all, this guy, he really knows his stuff, and he seems to be a fella who's completely obsessed with soccer.
Now, you spoke to him briefly, but it would seem you got plenty out of him in that time. Let's talk about the jobs he turned down.
What he said was that he actually had received plenty of offers, including several offers from Italy, so the Serie A, the sort of Premier League in Italy. But he said he turned them all down because he wanted to take the Ireland job. He called Ireland a beautiful nation, and he said we have some great players. He was very keen about Robbie Keane, for example. So he seemed to be quite happy and quite excited about taking the Irish job. Now,
did he give you any hint as to what his approach might be? Because I know that actually, to my shame, to be honest, Michael, I don't know that much about him. But I do know that he's a defensive style manager. He would teach the game in a defensive way, in a very hard way, but defensive playing nonetheless. Did he give you any idea of how he was going to approach the Irish game?
He did, Gerry. I actually asked him what his, because I'm a soccer fan rather than a soccer reporter, so I suppose you and I would be on a par. I wouldn't be able to look at tactics, and I just say, look, what way are you going to play it? Is it going to be a long ball or short or what? I said, are you going to be attacking or defensive? And he goes, he used the word concreto, which literally means concrete. So I was thinking, all right, very good, sort of, real hard defence. But I'm glad I double checked. I was speaking with an Italian friend of mine. Concreto also means practical. So what he meant was no nonsense. If we need to attack, we'll attack. If we need to defend, we'll defend. He said, it's a mistake to say I'll be attacking. It's a mistake to say I'll be defensive. I'm going to be practical, pragmatic and realistic. So in other words, if they're 2-0 up against Milan or Italy, hopefully next year or the year after next year, it's not as if they're going to try and get a third goal. He's going to be extremely pragmatic and do what needs to be done.
Now, the man is hugely respected in his home country. The Italians hold him in almost sort of iconic status. Now, as we know, they're very passionate, the Italians. I just wonder how they will react to him bringing an Irish team to play them in the qualifying matches for South Africa 2010, because it will be against, as you've just mentioned, Italy. And I wonder how he feels about that himself.
Well, I spoke to him about this. I asked him if he would have any problems about facing Italy, and he said no. I asked him actually, would it be strange? He goes, no, it won't be strange at all. It'll actually be, I'll be very proud to lead an Irish team out against the Italians. And he said, look, Italy are obviously a very, very strong team, but we can do it. I'm honestly convinced that we can beat them. And I said, you really, really think we can beat them? He says, look, nothing's certain in football, but we're going to go there and we're going to do everything we can to win. I'm not, basically he's not afraid.
Now, apparently his headquarters is in a car exhaust shop, one of these sort of quick fit sort of places. An unusual place, but it must work, because obviously his recent history shows the guy's got plaque after plaque, medal after medal, and accolade after accolade throughout Europe. So it would seem his rather unusual choice of headquarters works quite well for him. But it's in Italy. Do you think he'll be coming over to stay with us here in Ireland?
No, I asked him that as well. It was quite funny. He's seems to be quite an irascible character. Now, I think that's more or less the Italian way. What happened was we were waiting for him for about an hour when he was giving the training session. The three of us, myself and the two photographers, Jim and Dave, I mentioned earlier. And I spoke to the press officer and he said, "Okay, look, if you speak Italian, he'll talk to you, no problem." But he came along and he saw us and he exploded a little bit, but we managed to calm him down and he was talking away. So he's obviously got huge passion, and I think we're all going to benefit from that.
Now, he knows Robbie Keane. Well, he should know him anyway, because Robbie Keane, of course, played for Inter Milan, so that's one way that he would know. I suspect this fella watches soccer night and day from every corner of the globe. But even given that, do you think he's familiar with the Irish team?
Well, I was listening to Liam Brady on Morning Ireland earlier on today, and he said he would be of the belief that he watches all football and he would know the vast majority of the Irish players. I actually did ask him if he knows any Irish players, and he started laughing. He said, well, there's the most famous one who used to play for Inter Milan, and that's Robbie Keane. In Italy, when Robbie Keane was in Inter Milan, I think it was about maybe 9 years ago, he was called the Baby Irish. So I said, oh yeah, the Baby Irish. And he started laughing. He said, that's the guy. And I said, well, he's a bit older now. He said, yeah, no, but you know what? He's really at the prime of his career now, 28, 29. This is the best time to be a centre forward. It's the best time of your career. You've got all your experience behind you. So, you could see the glint in his eye when he was talking about Robbie Keane. He's obviously looking forward to working very closely with him.
Now, finally, he's a man of a sort of impish disposition, and another man of impish disposition who you just mentioned is a possible associate of his in this setup, Mr. Liam Brady. Did he mention anything about Liam, the possibility that Liam might? Well, I don't think Liam's going to leave Arsenal. There's no possibility of that. But if he could work in a deal with Arsene Wenger, do you think he might become part of the management team in some way?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He was walking away from us at the end, so I was sort of shouting some questions after him. But one of the final questions I did get to ask him was, look, have you started out your backroom staff? And he goes, yeah, already decided. And I said, is Liam really part of that? And as he was walking away, he just sort of shouted over his shoulder, yeah, if Wenger lets him go.
All right, Michael O'Toole. So they sent you because you could speak Italian, by the way, is that? All right. Well, do you want to help us with the pronunciation of the man's name, though? We've got two separate camps, including a lot of Italians even disagreeing with one another. Some saying it's Giovanni, others saying it's Giovanni. Mr. O'Toole, what would you opt for?
Giovanni.
Giovanni.
I've never heard. Maybe it's a southern Italian thing. I know he's from northern Italy. Without being totally boring and making all your listeners turn off, I is what they call a soft vowel. So it sort of elides into the O. So it's Giovanni rather than Giovanni. From what I have, I studied it for 12 years, and I was speaking to a good friend of mine last night. He goes, no, it's definitely Giovanni. It's not Giovanni at all. It's like ciao. You don't say ciao, it's ciao. It brings the O and the C together.
I'm more confused. All right.
No, it's simple. Giovanni, that's it.
Giovanni.
Yeah, not Gio. Joe. Forget just make the G like a J, and forget the I. Giovanni. Yeah.
Okay, Michael O'Toole, ciao.
Ciao.
It's Michael O'Toole, normally to be found behind the tape of either An Garda Síochána or any other international police force investigating crime. On this occasion, because he's an Italian speaker, he was sent by the Star over to Salzburg, wasn't it, to speak to Giovanni Trapattoni. Well, that's what he says. He says it's Giovanni. Others keep telling it's Giovanni, and all the arguments are very compelling. We still have not sorted that one out.
This is the Gerry Ryan Show on 2FM. Call 08457 585 285 from Northern Ireland.
Melissa, good morning to you. How are you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Welcome.
Okay.
Now, Melissa used to work for Heather Mills and Paul McCartney, and obviously you're paying some interest to the coverage at the moment, which is almost unrelenting, day in, day out, during this very public divorce and separation. And what do you feel about it all?
It hurts. It's hard to watch two people that you really care about go through something so public. I mean, it's hard enough to watch friends go through a divorce, let alone have so many people put so much rubbish out there. Yeah,
well, of course, there was a lot of argument about the whole issue, the whole Heather Mills and Paul McCartney issue on the programme the other day. It all kicked off with one woman who didn't like Paul McCartney because she was in the John Lennon camp, and she wanted Paul McCartney to basically, well, as far as I could see, she wanted Paul McCartney to just hand over all his money to Heather Mills, which was kind of irritating quite a lot of the men listening, I have to tell you. And then you had, well, the usual selection of jokes about poor old Heather Mills, and she's really, you see, the problem is when you live these things out in public, and of course her going on GMTV was pretty barking mad.
It was.
Yeah.
And I saw that interview, and
it was the act of a desperate woman.
It is, but if you look at what she's been hounded at, and Linda was hounded the same way, but to a lesser extent because we didn't have the information.
I actually think do you remember? I
was a baby then, so I don't quite remember what.
It was awful. There was people. She was Yoko Ono Mark II, right? That's what Linda McCartney
but
was.
The information age now, there's so much more. I mean, anyone can print anything on the internet, and there's nothing to back it up. And I think Heather had a good point. Have responsible journalism, because people are writing things that, they might have never even met her or seen her. And then you have people who've never met or seen either one of them. I mean, never been in their house, never talked with them on a one-on-one basis, and make opinions about them. And you only get small snippets. And if everyone sits there and says, she's horrible, she's horrible, she's horrible, people are going to think she's horrible. But when people who are passionate like she is about her causes, that gets misconstrued. And if you are always interviewed and going in interviews and wanting to talk about PETA or, Save the Whales or whatever she wants to talk about, and everyone is, what's it like being, married to your husband? Well, it's like being married to any other husband. It's got its ups and downs. Mm-hmm. And, it's that would be very irritating to anyone if you're sitting there going, I want to talk about my issue.
Yeah, but you have to kind of get real on that sort of stuff. That's a bit like, marrying the Pope and being a bit confused about the fact that everybody wants to talk about religion every time they see you. It's
Well, yeah, it is, but it's also like
it's incredibly naive. In fact,
but if someone is very passionate about what they want their message out, and it's getting
well, I think she should have thought about that before. I think she was just incredibly naive. By the way, I also think he was incredibly naive. I think he should have gone for a long walk and not gotten married at all.
I think they were both very much in love. In fact, I know they were because I was there before they got engaged. And without saying what Paul and I were involved in, it was. He and I had very long conversations personally. My grandmother died in the middle of my working with him, and he's the type of man I could walk in after a weekend away, and he'd say, "How's your sister? How was your funeral? What happened here and stuff?" And it wasn't self-involved at all. And we had genuinely discussions like a friend, and it was my family had some issues, things going on, and I had an uncle who married a very young woman and had a child with her, and she was already an auntie before she was ever born. And he asked me how things went with that, and I said, well, we took it in stride, but of course, my uncle in California was very well known in politics, but I said, it's not on your level, of course, And I said, the problem is you have to deal with fans. He said, Linda had to deal with the same thing. And I said, but it's also the information age. There's people out there. There's more information and there's more stuff, 24-hour news on all the time. And I think it takes a very strong person. It doesn't matter. But also, I think you
hit the nail on the head, though, Melissa, because Linda and Paul, for better or for worse, and I'm sure they had their disagreements, I'm sure they did over a quarter of a century or whatever, for better or for worse, they never presented anything other than a united front.
Right.
Now, you might say that she sublimated herself to him, or whatever was involved in the process, you never got past the two of them. Now, I think Heather, because she became so pissed off, and to a degree, it looked like arrogance about the fact that people were Paul McCartney. I think that she became visibly anxious and angry about that. And that meant that she didn't look like she was part of the McCartney team.
Right. Or
now, do you know what? By the way,
her identity as Heather Mills.
Yeah. By the way, a lot of people would say, that there, but for the grace of God, I would have stabbed him. Maybe some women are saying this morning, but she, this woman she should have anticipated that this was going to happen. And by the way, so should he. He has a responsibility as well. He should have known what was going to happen to her.
I think they both did, but at the same time, they were able to sneak around for so long, and sometimes you sit there and think, I'm going to get married and it's not going to be so bad. Watching the people in Hollywood, there are a lot of good relationships that have lasted for a long time because they aren't in the public eye so much. But as you say, he's a Beatle. He's always going to be in the public eye, whether he wants to be or not. And that I think there was naivety on both of their parts.
But there's also this quality of character. If you look at, for instance, Camilla Parker Bowles, and no matter, they are unrelenting trying to break her down, and have been for years, trying to get her to say something that'll embarrass Prince Charles. And now she gets married and she is in exactly the same mode. It's,
right.
It's utterly unified, the two of them. And I don't think that Heather Mills had that at all.
And that's your opinion.
By the way, how would I know, of course, except from what I see from 1,000 miles away.
Yeah, and that's too. And I tend to stayed away from a lot of the hype and the publicity because of what I do and what and family and friends and people who knew I had this association.
Yeah.
I was at a friend's funeral and someone came up and said, "How's Paul?" And I'm like, "Paul who?" Yeah. And it's just they're like, "Oh, I read this, I read that," and I said, "Well, don't believe everything you read." And I would purposely not read things and not pay attention to it. But then it gets to a point where you just keep hearing that. It's like watching, your friend get bashed in the head, and then you finally have to say, just stop, leave them alone. and you can say whatever you want about them, and and yes, they're crazy, and yes, they're this, and yes, they're that. But at the same time, they're both hurting. I mean, they are in this to the beginning. You don't get married walking down the aisle and going, hope this is going to work. You know, I'm not really sure if I love this person.
Oh, no, I think it's been incredibly damaging, this whole experience for both of them. I think she's gone partially psychotic. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
And I think he's very emotionally drained and hugely anxious.
Yeah.
And I'd say it has aged him quite a bit in the last couple of months. So it has not been a good outcome for either. And no matter how much money she gets, no matter how free of the problem he eventually becomes, this has spoilt a fairy tale.
Well, and everyone's talked about the money. And she had money before she ever met him. He chased her.
Yeah.
She had her own money. She was doing fine without him. And I think it's gotten to the point where he had so much, and he never signed a prenup and everything. I mean, it's not about the money. It's that this fell apart, and now not going through divorce myself, hope to God I never have to. I mean, I'm very much in love with my husband, even though he brought me to this country. And I miss my California sun. But at the same time, you just sit there and you say, you get so bitter, you want everything else that they have, and you can't have this and you can't have that, and you lose sight of the fact that there's a child involved.
Yeah.
There's people's
Actually, I was only thinking about that, Melissa, the other day. That is so sad, because no matter what happens in a breakup, I think the one gift that both people can give is a civilized approach to dealing with their children, so that their children, having gone through the issue of the mum and dad splitting up and maybe not living together anymore, because they will get through that.
They will get through that.
But they will get through it only if you have two parents who are willing to stand shoulder to shoulder and say, look, didn't work out exactly like the people next door, but you know something? We love you and we're going to take care of you, and there'll be no compromises on that.
Right, and I have a friend who's a teacher, and she, out of all of the divorced children in her classes, and she's been teaching for 20 years, that there's only one set of parents that were divorced, and every parent-teacher conference, that child had 4 parents sitting there and saying, what can we do for this child? Only one in 20 years, and that's in California. And I think that's such a sad statement for these two people to not sit there and, walk away and say, we're going to be taking care of this one. This is the person.
Well, I mean, that's what's going to happen to this little girl. What will happen is that Paul gets her at 10 to 5 and on Friday, and then they won't be talking to one another.
They both travel for a living. I mean, one of the only reasons they could make it is she had her own money, and she could do her business from anywhere in the world, and so could he. Yeah. And whenever he had to go to L.A., he worked it out with her, so it was advantageous for him and her. So it was, and now, they're going to be living separate lives, and it's going to be much harder. I've also seen parents who used private jets to shuttle their kids back and forth between each other, and that was from San Francisco or from LA to Santa Barbara, which is hour and a half drive, and they used a private jet to bring the kids together because they didn't want to see each other. It was ridiculous. And then then a nanny gets involved, and then the nannies become a rotating, revolving door, because no one wants to sit there and deal with it because the kid is screaming for attention. And I hope that doesn't happen to Beatrice. I know they both love her and they want to take care of her. But I have a feeling if Heather had her druthers, she would be out of the UK, out of Ireland, out of everywhere, and be back in California, where she isn't under such a magnifying glass. I think here it's worse for the two of them because they're from the UK. And it's just like Brittany. If she could get away from it, she should move here and they should move there. And I think the scrutiny would be less. I mean, no one can live in a fishbowl that long without losing some of your mind and your
How
dignity.
do you think that she'll take to having to agree to a gagging order as part of the settlement? Because that seems to be one of the...
I think it's a must. I don't know how she'll take it. I think she's a smart woman. She's a very smart businesswoman, and I think she has to take a step away from it. I hope, I hope she sticks by that, because if she doesn't, I think a lot of people will lose even more respect if she does. Yeah. She does violate it. there's amount of decorum that needs to be,
Do you know something? You're absolutely right. And I think they're both on the edge of the cliff in terms of the dignity issue. They really, really, really need to stand back, think of what the world thinks of them, because they're both hugely dependent on what people in general think about them. So that needs to be addressed, and it'll take more than a PR agency. It takes some very care. And, really they should be on the court steps when this is finished, the two of them together, reading out the statement, that we have solved our differences and we're going to go forward together to take care of our child. And I wish Heather the best, and Heather wishes him the best. Now, they must do something like that. If they don't do that, I think he's in trouble. Everything that he's done and achieved will be tarnished, and she will continue to be looked at as some sort of psychotic sort of witch.
Right.
Which is very sad.
It gets worse.
Yeah.
It just gets worse.
Tell me this: if a year ago or whenever it was, has this been going on for a year yet? Has it? No.
Oh yeah.
If say a couple of years ago, Castle Leslie days. Those glorious days.
Yeah, I wish I had been there. I was supposed to be there, but
and what a beautiful place too. If somebody had told you around that time, oh, this is what's going to happen, and they painted this tabloid story in all its lurid detail for you, would you have believed them?
No, because like I said, I saw them behind the scenes. I was, and it's just, they did so much for each other, and they loved making each other happy. There was one time I was with Paul, and she called and said, I'm finding, she was shopping, and she said, I'm finding good stuff. And he's like, well, buy what you need and get this or whatever. And I bought her a nice bottle of California wine and some Silver Oak, which is fabulous. And she was so excited to give it to him to drink together that night for dinner, because he's a wine snob and wouldn't try the California wine. So I knew that, and I was always bringing, $50, $100 bottle of wines, which personally I couldn't afford. But it was like, no, you need to know there's good wine over here. We have good stuff. It's not just Gatto.
I know you do.
And then it was just like, I can't wait to share this with him, and I can't wait to share that with her, and, what do you think? And, they really enjoyed being together. And I don't think when all that was happening, and, I was a part of it, and, when she was deciding on how she wanted her hair for the wedding, and, took into account what he liked, and, you didn't see that. And you don't see that when someone's about to get married and walk down the aisle. No one stands there and says, it's not going to work, except for a few people who, before they ever get married, they shouldn't be together. I've been at the receptions where he's on one side of the world and she's on the other, and they've never saw eye to eye. And but then you also know that he's had a wandering eye his whole life, or that and this. But I really didn't see that with them, and I would have never believed that.
And I also believe if there's even a spark of love there, it can be ignited, not necessarily back into a proper relationship, but it can be ignited to dignity.
Right.
And I there's that extraordinary scene at the end of the War of the Roses when both of them, after going through hell and trying to destroy each other both physically and mentally, and Michael Douglas, and is it Sybil Shepherd? Is it? I can't remember.
No, it's Kathleen Turner.
Kathleen Turner, even better. And they're both lying, dying on the ground, and they reach out and touch. And you just know that despite all the hate and the horror and the animosity, that there was one tiny little spark left.
Well, he reached out, and then didn't she throw him away? I think it takes, Gerry, when you
remember the
someone,
bad bits.
I'm a girl. No, I also know that you've been through the bad relationships where you just hate the person. And it takes a long time to get through the hate, and you have to get to a point where you don't care. You respect them, you respect their wishes, but you have to stop caring. And you love them so much, and then you hate them so much, and you get to the point where, they can live their life. I'm happy for them, whatever they decide. I'm happy I'm not part of it anymore. And it takes a long time to get to that point. Someone said it was for every year you're in a relationship, it takes 2 years to get over it.
Jesus.
So now if we're looking at 8 years from now, they might be at that respectable place, but while they're in the non-respectable place, they have to keep their mouths shut and just say, yeah, it's very nice for them. How happy am I for them? And you have to learn those words. it's those things like when people ask you a question, how do you feel about this? And you say, why do you ask? What turn the question on them so you don't have to answer it and make the position more uncomfortable. Don't feel like you have to answer everything.
Have you been in contact with either of them, have you?
No. I wrote to Paul about me getting married because I have another reason that I'm not in contact with them. That's personal, and it's more I wait for them to contact me, and the way I've dealt with my celebrity clientele and the people that I've dealt with, I've seen people call, and it's on the inner circle. It's looked at, well, that person wants a job or needs money or needs something, and I've always kept an arm's distance. And when I'm in their area, when they're in the vicinity, I make a phone call and just say, hey, I'm thinking of you. If we can get together for lunch or dinner or do something, and then if they need me, they call me. But because I've moved to Ireland, I'm not needed as much. They have their own resources here, and I was more in California. My job was more secure in that sense.
You sound like a woman of mystery. Melissa, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
2FM. Operation Transformation on the Gerry Ryan Show. Sponsored by GE Money Flexi Loan. The loan that changes with you.
Last night, episode 6 of our RT makeover show, Operation Transformation, hit the TV screens. For some of our 6 leaders, it was fun. Donal Looney got to try on a white suit. If you consider that fun, he had loads of it. Ollie got to try on some fabulous frocks. Did she?
Yes, she did. We didn't necessarily see all the frocks last night that Ollie tried on.
Oh, so you just showed these shitty ones. Okay. Louise Collins got to try her hand at a spot of kite surfing, which was impressive. But for Violet O'Shea, one of our most popular leaders, it was a tough, unhappy show. Well, why? She'd been given a target weight loss of 7 pounds this week. And she struggled to meet her target weight loss over the last few weeks, so a decision was taken for drastic action. Yep, they packed her off to our nutritionist, Dr. Ava Orsmond. Yeah, they said, move in with Ava and everything will work out fine. But not quite. Violet lost, in fact, not enough, but lost nothing. Now, maybe that means nothing as well. But it really, really upset her, and you could see that on the telly last night. And there's been a tremendous reaction to her plight. Lots of email support. And joining us in studio to discuss the situation is Ryan Show reporter and the woman who knows these 6 leaders as well as anybody can at this stage, Evelyn O'Rourke. Ev.
Gerry.
That was a tough one, wasn't it?
It was really tough, actually. I felt so sorry for her because, as you said there, they did send her off to Ava Orsmond's house for the week. And in fact, it turned out to be a very pleasant experience. They worked out really hard. Ava did all the cooking. Ava even told me that she has a Rottweiler dog. I think we saw a little shot of the dog last night that she kept in the kitchen
called
at night.
Blondie, is it?
The Rottweiler was in the kitchen, so there was absolutely no question of midnight raids on the fridge or anything like that. And the family made her really welcome. Ava lost 2 pounds.
Herself?
During the time that Violet was with her because they're working out so hard.
I mean, she had her up on a cross trainer and everything,
she did,
didn't she?
And they did. They were trying to aim for 17,000 steps a day. Now, the recommended average is 10,000 steps a day. So you're really putting yourself under, good physical work out there by going for 17,000. There was a massage thrown in, but I approve of that kind of thing. Walking to your massage, that's fine by me. Mm-hmm. But they did work really hard. And Ava said she saw Violet working out. She was obviously working out. They did all the food that they should have. Ava did all the cooking, all that kind of thing. And I think what's amazing about last night's TV was how the men are just shedding weight. Yeah. Eamon is like a weight loss machine.
What did he lose? 8.5 pounds?
Another 8.5 pounds yesterday. He has lost 3 stone, 3.5 pounds overall. He now weighs 15 stone, 8.5 pounds. And Donal, who's light, who's the lightest at this stage, is still losing weight. He lost 3 pounds. And the partners are doing really well. Like Evelyn's partner James has lost over 3 stone. And, the men just seem to be doing well. I mean, the other women struggle too. None of them hit their target weight loss this week. Though I think we've kind of missed out on Ollie's. I mean, Ollie has actually beaten her overall
target weight loss
for the whole project. Exceeded. Yeah, in fairness to her, she did do that yesterday.
So things are kind of slowing down for her. And Louise, she had her problems too, I think.
Yeah, she missed her target weight loss by, again, as you were saying, going in the right direction, down £2.5, but her target weight was £5. So of course everybody's saying, right, what is the story with Violet now? What do we do now? So we've been talking to Violet, and Violet is on her way, or actually there, and I think we'll be talking to her in a minute. She's gone under the supervision of Ian Gargan, our psychologist, who's actually, of course, a medically trained doctor, to the sports surgery clinic in Santry for a full wellness check, because obviously everybody wants to establish what is going on here. Because I don't know about you, but I'm getting loads of theories into me about underfed, overfed, thyroids, all this kind of stuff.
But there could also be absolutely nothing going on. It could just be a bad week.
Yeah, because since she has started, it's 3 stone, since
what
Christmas.
We discussed amongst ourselves after Wednesday's weigh-in in the Hive. So I was just saying, look, it's not going to do any harm to send her off and get a medical done. And I was saying this to Ian and to Carl, and I mean a proper full medical, let's look
blood
at everything.
Tests,
let's get the blood tests done. Let's find out everything. Because, it would be unfortunate if there was maybe an issue there, a medical issue that had been, exaggerated, or that had been exacerbated by the weight loss. So let's be on the safe side, and let's just make sure that there's nothing like that lurking in the background. So a full check.
That's happening as we speak. Blood test at 9 a.m, then onto a stress test, and Ian is with her there, and that'll go on right through the morning.
He's the right man to be with her too. It's great support. Now Violet's on the line.
Oh, great.
Violet, good morning.
Hi, Violet.
Hiya.
How are you feeling?
Not too bad. Better today.
Yeah. Did you watch it last night?
I did, yeah. I watched it with the family.
Yeah. Were you upset again?
Yeah, I was just a little bit. But I'm not too bad. I'm getting myself back together.
Well, I mean, I couldn't... Well, first of all, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
and secondly, like, how do you tell somebody who's worked so hard? It was very, very difficult to break the news to you. And, some people were saying to me yesterday, well, why didn't you just tell her that she'd actually lost? I said, I can't make it up,
Yeah.
But your face was a study in disappointment, it was.
But you were excited about getting on the scales. That was the killer part, because you'd worked so hard.
She jumped up on the scales.
I did. I worked really hard this week, and I was really expecting to lose at least my target weight. So I was actually gutted now. I was so disappointed.
Well, you've got a tremendous amount of support. You'd want to see all the emails and everything that are coming in here in support of you. You've also got great family support, and Christopher, your brother, is on the line as well. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, Gerry.
How are you doing?
Hi, Christopher. How are you?
Great, thanks.
Well, you were very upset for your sister, weren't you?
Well, I was terribly caught up watching the show last night, to see my sister so upset on telly. I found it very upsetting. Watching her, because I know that she was it was very tough for her living away from home for a few days, and I know she was expecting to at least meet her target, so not to do so. It was just it was very difficult to see her so upset.
Who did you watch the programme with, Christopher?
I watched it at home with my wife, Samantha. I watch it every week. I've given up playing my cards as my sister-in-law is on the Thursday night so I can watch her.
True support.
And Christopher, did you know what was going to come on last night, did you?
Yes, because I popped down to see Violet in our house on Wednesday at tea time to see how she'd get on, because obviously you didn't weigh her on the show on Wednesday on the radio, so I was anxious to see how she'd get on, and I seen how devastated she was on Wednesday, so she was just devastated. That was pretty hard to take, to see my sister so disappointed. So after the show last night, I actually stayed up and I wrote my sister a letter.
Have you got it there?
I do.
Will you read it to her?
Okay.
Thanks.
For you there, love?
I am, love. I'm listening to you.
God, I'm sorry if I've been upset. I probably only wrote about 3 letters, love, in my life. So I just wanted to write this letter to you, just to let you know how well I think you're doing. And so I'll just read it out. Dear sis, over the past few weeks, I, like others, have used the same phrases of how much I love you and how much I'm proud of you. I wish I was better at putting across those sentiments, as I have been bursting with love, pride and admiration for your accomplishments on the show so far. From your dieting and exercising, your amazing scuba diving, and having to leave them and the kids for a few days, I know it wasn't easy for you. But you've met all your challenges head on. You need to know that you've been an inspiration to loads of people to confront your weight issue and to tackle it. Never again let doubt cross your mind when faced with what seems an insurmountable task. Never again step back from the forefront or limelight which you have shown so brightly in the last weeks. You jumped on a roller coaster when you joined the show, and the whole family jumped on the back to support you in the low dips and to celebrate the high bends. To your comedy partner Donald and the rest of the leaders, they have done a fantastic job. But after your disappointment this week, sis, it's time to stand up and dust yourself down. Show off that big smile and let out that infectious laugh that fills the room. Sorry. I sent you a text shortly after the show started. It simply read, Violet O'Shea, my sister, my hero. That sentiment stands more this week than any other. So stay on that roller coaster, sis, and see it out till the end. And to use those simple phrases again. I love you, and I'm very proud of you. Christopher Dillard, on behalf of a very proud family.
Fantastic. My word, you write a good letter, Christopher.
Oh, sorry.
That was fantastic. That was wonderful.
Thanks.
Violet, are you impressed?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me with Christopher, though.
My God, he's a man with a big heart, isn't he?
Yeah, he has, huge. And he's no problem telling you how much he loves you. He does it all the time.
Christopher, you're a big-hearted fella.
He's sitting in his taxi, Gerry, beside the Burlington, roaring, crying in his car. Are you all right, Christopher?
Yeah, I'm grand, yeah.
That was really, really beautiful.
Well, I think you're saying, Christopher, don't give up.
No.
No matter what, don't give up.
No, I don't want it. I know she won't give up. I know she won't give up, but she'll see it out until the end. I was speaking to Evelyn and I said that I heard her read out an email from a 13-year-old on Wednesday, a letter of support for all the leaders. So I was ringing hoping that maybe somebody would copy this letter and read it out to me sister. I'm sorry for being upset.
Well, there's lots of, you stay with us, Christopher, for a moment. Violet, there's lots of support, and I'd like to bring in a man you know well now, Violet, that the whole nation knows well. He's another Operation Transformation leader, and he's doing well, and he wants to add his voice this morning. This is Donald. Donald, good morning.
The comedy partner.
How you doing, lads? Are you well?
Hi, Donald.
How you doing, Evelyn Pett? How you doing?
How you doing?
Great. How you doing? Thanks for that. Thanks. Ev, how you doing, darling?
Great.
Hello.
Violet, how are you doing, my love?
Hello, Pat. How are you?
What? So you're going to see the doctor this morning, are you?
I am. I'm with him now at the moment.
Yeah, well, I want to say now what I said to you yesterday. And I'm telling the nation, if you're pregnant, it's nothing to do with me.
Well, that's an angle we hadn't considered.
What's going on backstage?
I could get a girl pregnant now at this stage just by looking at her.
It's been so long.
Violet, are you listening to me, darling?
I am. I'm listening
Listen.
to you. Right, like I got you tonight.
We've talked in private. You know how I feel about you. You are an angel sent from heaven. Okay? You are an angel sent from heaven. And along with the rest of them as well. But you're special. You're very special to me. And your husband is an extremely lucky man. I know he knows that anyway. Like. So look, get that thing sorted out with the doctor, and I'll see you tonight.
I will. I'll see you.
And if you're good, I give you a private showing in the White House.
Hey. Okay, great sentiments, Donald. I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope things are working out well
They're
for you
off to
as
boot
well.
camp, Gerry.
Everything is going to finest for me.
Where are you going tonight, guys? By the way,
Roganstown House Hotel. That's where they're off to.
Yeah.
Mini boot camp for the next 24 hours.
Mini boot camp.
Yeah,
What's
get
going to
ready
happen?
for the big boot camp, which is coming down the tracks.
Oh, Jesus, I'm going home to bed. All right, Donald.
Listen, Gerry, I'll have to go because I work to do.
Okay, off you go, buddy.
All right,
Great,
and
and
I'll
thanks
talk
for
to you
making the
later
call.
Not about it. Mind yourself.
Christopher, thank you very much. That was tremendous.
No
you know, you're a wonderful man, and it's great to hear a man who's willing to open up and do it so eloquently and articulately
Absolutely.
and so honestly and passionately. And Violet, you're lucky to have fellas like this on your side.
Oh, yeah, very lucky.
Okay, good luck with the rest of the tests today, and you're in good hands there. Ian will take care of you too, and we'll talk to you next week. God bless you.
God bless. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Wow. Great guy altogether.
Christopher, I know. And he's just, I can just imagine him, if anybody's going past the Burlow and he's sitting in his taxi, rubbing his eyes, God help him. And he was saying it was only the third letter he's ever written. I'm like, wait till the fourth comes.
Yeah, it was great.
It was beautifully written.
What's this boot camp? I didn't know about that.
Oh, yeah, it's mini boot camp.
They don't tell me anything.
You see, we don't tell you. We just bring you down. We just stick you in there. Actually, can I just explain one quick thing? Because somebody was asking me about this. On the TV programme, when you're doing the weighing bit in the White Room, that is what is going out live on radio. Because I think people are a bit confused. I think they think we're doing that somewhere else. Because it doesn't look like a radio studio. Because you can't see microphones or anything.
That's exactly what's going on. When you see that, when you see the Hive...
That's what you're seeing.
That's where I've gone to. Evelyn's been down there usually an hour or two beforehand. And then I jump into a taxi with the producers here from the show. And I fly down to the Hive. And we usually get down there in about 10, 12 minutes. And what we do is we record an interview the day before. Usually it's with somebody like Jenny Houston or something like that. And we play that. So we're sitting in the taxi listening to ourselves, and then we usually get down to Sir John Rogerson's Quay. We've been very lucky to get through the traffic nice and easy, and usually then I'm made up, mic'd up, and straight in my tie, and it's into the weigh-in at usually at about 11:30.
About 11:30, yeah.
So that's exactly.
So the bit you're seeing when Ollie or whoever's walking down the catwalk, that's what's going out live on air.
Yeah.
They aren't two separate things.
No.
Because I was explaining this to somebody else, and they're going, "That's the radio bit as well." It's going, yeah, because we have little tie mics, and you don't see cables. I think that's why people think it's not the radio bit. But that is the bit that's going out. And yes, tonight and tomorrow is kind of mini boot camp. Ava's going to be talking to the chef about getting their menus ready. Carla's going to do a bit of a workout with them, I think, as well. I think Shay Dempsey, the hairstylist, is going to come along and do a little consultation with them. Yeah, I think that's some of the plan tomorrow. So there's some of them are coming up tonight to stay the night in the hotel. Then they go home. We do more shopping on Sunday and Monday, which I'm looking forward to. And then other people are doing challenges next week. And then next weekend, before the catwalk, they move into Roganstown for a couple of nights.
Okay.
And we'll be doing that live
on
air.
The whole styling thing is going to kind of get ramped up over the next couple of weeks as well. We've got complaints from our stylist, Marietta. She says she wants more money and she wants an opportunity to take them to more shops. And we're going to see what we can do about that.
Yes, she wants them to look, as we all do, fabulous.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm telling you, we'll have them looking great. I guarantee it.
And let's remind everybody, you are welcome at home to come and join us in Swords on that morning on the 27th of February. Come and fill the shopping centre.
Put that into your diary. 27th of February. We want everybody out in the pavilion out in
for about
Swords.
10:30 for 11 o'clock.
About 10:30 for 11 o'clock. The broadcast will be live on the radio.
And you might even get to see Gerry in the roadcaster.
I'm not doing the roadcaster. I don't do the roadcaster. I told you that before. Right? Okay? Unless I get some extra money and then I might consider it.